A handshake is two people calmly handing over the body part that can hurt them fastest. That same hand opens doors, holds phones, signs names, grabs tools, and refuses things. It can wave hello. It can also say no without filing the paperwork. So when another person takes it, this is not neutral contact. It is controlled access, and somehow we made this normal enough to do in offices, hallways, weddings, and bad networking events. Too firm means dominance. Too limp means weakness. Miss the timing and suddenly everyone has a small crisis. Refuse it, hesitate over germs, or leave the hand hanging, and the room hears that before you explain anything. Which leaves a strange question. Why would anyone offer that hand to another person at all? Before etiquette, the older problem was simple. A stranger was a moving question, not a villain. Not a friend, just an unknown body crossing useful distance. That distance mattered because tools, weapons, gifts, and bad ideas all travel through hands. Words help, but only after both sides believe the body is not about to start a side project. Basically, conversation needs a safety deposit. Different groups handled this differently, so there is no one clean origin story hiding in a cave. But the structure is familiar. Approach, pause, show intent, wait for the room to read it. The hand mattered because it was where action became public. It could grab, strike, carry, refuse, help, or do nothing at all. And sometimes doing nothing clearly enough was the first message. That is where the empty hand enters, a very old kind of message. It says, nothing is being held, nothing is being raised, nobody is starting the paperwork of violence. That does not prove friendship. It only proves one useful thing. For this second, the hand is not doing damage. In older meetings, that mattered before the speech, the smile, or the charming little lie. An open palm could make approach safer, not safe. Important difference. In many traditions, the right hand carried extra weight because it was the hand of work, oath, and action. Greek and Roman images of joined right hands later used that force for union, trust, and formal bonds. So yes, the empty hand explanation is useful, but it is too small to carry everything a handshake eventually came to mean. Touching hands is riskier than showing hands. An open palm says roughly, I am not using this hand against you. A handshake goes further. It places that hand inside another person's reach, and the other person does the same, back. That tiny symmetry matters more than the politeness brochure admits. Trust signals get stronger when both sides pay a small cost. Not a grand sacrifice, just a little bodily inconvenience with consequences. You are close enough to be grabbed, pulled, judged, or made awkward. They are close enough for the same unpleasant customer experience. So the gesture becomes less like a display and more like a shared arrangement. Not just look, no weapon. More like, for 1 second, we both accept exposure. From there, joined hands kept showing up where invisible promises needed a body. Ancient images and monuments often use clasped hands for connection, agreement, parting, or union. Not proof of one origin, more like a recurring human solution with fingers. In Roman culture, joined right hands could point to concord, marriage, trust, or formal bonds. The idea sounds ceremonial. The mechanism is practical. Two people may say they agree, but a visible hand clasp lets everyone else see the agreement happen. That matters because promises are private until a group can witness them. A hand becomes a public interface for intention. Basically, the body turns into a tiny contract machine, very elegant, slightly cursed. In medieval and early modern settings, hand-giving could mark homage, pledges, contracts, or reconciliation. Sometimes equal, sometimes not equal at all. The details changed, but the structure stayed. Touch the hand, show the bond, make the invisible social risk visible. A handshake, then, is a tiny public contract made out of skin. Not legally, usually. Please do not sue your uncle after a barbecue. But socially, the structure is now clearer. The real question is no longer only where the gesture came from. It is what problem hand touch keeps solving. Trust is private. Seriousness is private. Recognition is private. A group cannot inspect those things directly, which is rude and also impossible. So people need outer signs, hands given, hands clasped, promises made visible. That is why old images could use joined right hands for concord, loyalty, or agreement. Not one clean origin, but a repeating solution. The hand becomes the interface between inner intention and public memory. Basically, the body becomes a tiny contract machine. Once private intention becomes public, A handshake can quietly pretend two people meet as equals. That did not make everyone equal, obviously. History is rude like that. But joined hands could stage recognition in public, peace, agreement, welcome, respect. In Roman images, clasped right hands could suggest concord, marriage, loyalty, or formal bonds. Not one origin, more like the same useful symbol kept getting rehired, because the hand was not just touching skin, it was announcing a social position. You can welcome someone into a room by taking their hand. You can confirm a deal, end a conflict, or perform friendliness while your soul files a complaint. But the same ritual also carries power. Who offers first? Who waits? Who squeezes too hard? Who gets ignored? Basically a tiny status machine with fingers. That explains why a bad handshake can feel strangely loud. When a handshake fails, the room hears it before anyone speaks. A missed hand is not just bad timing. It is the tiny public version of, apparently, we are not synchronized. The crushing handshake does something else. It turns a greeting into a status test with fingers attached. Basically, a small peace ritual becomes office wildlife management. A limp handshake sends the opposite signal, even when nobody means it that way. A refused handshake is louder still, because now recognition itself has been declined. After the pandemic, even hesitation gained meaning. Germs made the old trust ritual file a new risk assessment. So the awkwardness matters because the gesture is still doing ancient work. So a handshake is not one origin story. It is several old problems folded into one small motion. The hand was always the suspicious part. It made tools, opened doors, signed deals, and could refuse. It could also grab, strike, or hide intent, a very productive little liability. Showing the hand empty solved one problem. This hand is not currently ruining the meeting. But that was only the first layer. An open palm is not yet a promise. The next move was offering access, placing the useful, risky tool where another person could reach it. Then the clasp made the signal mutual. Not just look at my hand, but hold it while I hold yours. That is why joined hands kept appearing around bonds, peace, marriage, loyalty, and public agreement. Roman clasped right-hand images did not invent the handshake, but they show the same logic at work. The hand became a small public machine for turning private intent into something other people could see, because trust is invisible, annoyingly invisible. Terrible design, socially speaking. So humans kept using the body to make a claim before words had finished their paperwork. No single origin has to carry all of this. The stronger answer is repeated usefulness. Manners came later, sitting on top of risk management, agreement, status, witnesses, and memory. Two people touch hands today and usually treat it as normal. They may call it polite, professional, friendly, or just what adults do in rooms. Basically, social autopilot with fingers. But under that small contact is an older problem that never fully retired. Can I approach you? Can you approach me? And if we meet in the middle, will anyone else understand what just happened? Across time, hands helped answer that in different ways. Open palm, clasp, pledge, public sign. No single origin, no perfect family tree, no ancient handshake department. Just repeated pressure, making tension visible before trust has time to prove itself. So the modern handshake is not only etiquette, the form is new. The need to make trust visible is ancient.